afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure. On behalf of IRA Consulting, I'd like to welcome all the panelists and the participants to the webinar on impact of COVID on the SMEs. On 7th of May, we had put out a research paper on what is the impact of COVID-19 on the SMEs. And some of the learnings from that paper were very critical, were very important. And we got a lot of calls saying that we would like to have an opportunity to discuss some of the solutions that can be employed to address this issue. So we put together a team of panelists who can address these issues. One important thing that you would have seen about these panelists is we have not given any designation, because regardless of what designation they go by, they're all business owners. So they all own small and medium businesses. They're all in the trenches every day. So to that extent, this is truly a webinar for the SMEs, of the SMEs, and by the SMEs. So we don't have some executive talking, but there are people who are there. So hopefully, based on the panelists' presentation and discussion, you will get some perspective, some ideas, some solutions, some food for thought, an alternate method of doing your current business, and maybe you are richer at the end of this presentation. At the start of each panelist's presentation, I'll introduce the panelists formally so that we get to know what kind of business they're doing. If you have questions for the panelists, please feel free to use the chat option. At the end of all the presentations, we will take the questions to the respective panelists and seek answers. With that, we start this presentation. The first presenter for the day is Mr. Ketan Kapasi. Ketan bhai, if you can please wave your hand. Okay. Mr. Ketan Kapasi is part of the Kapasi Group. They're a manufacturer of pharma intermediates and perfumery chemicals. They have an office in Mumbai and plants in Gujarat, but they do business worldwide. So with a small little introduction, Ketan bhai, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar. For me, it's a first experience of a webinar. So I would like to at first excuse for any mistakes that I'm going to be doing. That said, I would like to thank IRA and the team, especially Srini and GD, for taking this lovely initiative of organizing this webinar, and also for having that lovely information that was shared and collated, the data that they have shared with everyone. As Srini pointed out, we are into manufacturing of specialty chemicals. We have plants at Baroda, and we do sell our products both domestic as well as in the export market. Now, I've been asked to talk a little bit about marketing and business development and how this COVID situation may impact us or has already impacted us. I'm sure everybody has their own set of problems which they are going through at present because of this situation, because of the lockdown, because of the restrictions in resumption of business or manufacturing activities. And this pain is here for some time, but I'm sure that over a period of time, it's going to go away, and it's going to give a lot of opportunity for India. Our Honorable Prime Minister yesterday has already conveyed the message, make in India, be a proud Indian, buy Indian. So let's take that a little bit forward over here right now. So what I would just like to say is that we've been in business for now almost 50 years. We've had our factory, which was started in 1970-71. So we are almost 50 years now. And over a period of time, we've realized that one of the key things or key success mantras is relationship with customers. And that is the most important aspect of having a good relationship in which the customer enjoys working with you and you also enjoy working with the customer. To be able to build a good relationship, there are a couple of important points. One is honesty, transparency, and deliverance. So if you are honest with your customer, you're transparent with your customer, whether you have some good news, bad news, you would be able to put forward your point of view and they would understand because they would trust what you are saying. At the end of the day, that's how it's going to be a win-win kind of a situation with the customer. And if the customer is happy, like it's always said, customer is king, customer is God. So that's how our business would flourish if we can keep our customer happy. Now, just by being honest or being transparent is not really going to solve the problem. We need to deliver as well. So that's another important aspect in terms of giving what we have promised in the time frame that we have promised and the quality that we have promised to them. If we can manage to do these certain important points, the other things will fall into place. Today, in today's world, price is a given. You cannot, be in the marketplace if you're not going to be price sensitive or competitive. So that is always a given. But that little extra that any business owner, any marketing manager, or any company can do a little bit for the customer goes a long way. I feel that we've gone through a lot of ups and downs in business. We've had our share of bad times. Fortunately, touch wood, right now we are in a good position where, because of uh, being there and sticking in there, we've been able to overcome the situation. And slowly we've been able to grow from strength to strength, and we've been able to uh, grow our business to a scale at which we feel that we are now in a comfortable zone. Today, being in a chemical industry, yes, we are in a little bit of a sweet spot, maybe compared to the other industries in this time of the COVID crisis that is there, because chemicals as is form a base of various other inputs that are there. And we feel that, yes, we are slightly better off, or we'll be getting more opportunities because of people wanting to move away from China. So we are trying to see how we can build our own strengths in terms of trying to have little more increasing our competency levels and also increasing our capabilities. There were a couple of things which I feel that people are going to face a problem, or people may have this issue about whether how they should sell, or whether they should sell on credit. If will people make payments, will your customer make your payments on time? If you've had a good relationship with the customer, I'm sure that they will also support you in terms of payments, in terms of collections. If a customer is habituated to make delayed payments or to just unnecessarily drag it on, then one should always consider that whether this business is right or wrong. That said, I feel that if you have a good rapport with your customer, they also understand the situation. And if you understand their situation, you also would be willing to give them some sort of support in this crisis. So it's always a give and take. And in that give and take, I'm sure there is a midway path, which would be a win-win, where you get additional business because of this situation, and you are able to also manage your cash flows. It should not form a basis of trying to get out of a business. In fact, try and work a solution so that you get the business in spite of whatever difficulties is there. Just maybe I could share a small example of one of the businesses that we are doing with a particular customer. And they we make this product specifically for them. And over the past few years, we've had this problem with them that, they would place an order, we would manufacture, then they would take part quantity, and then we are saddled with inventory. Now they've come back again. So this is always a on and off situation, but this time they've come back with a larger quantity order. And I've been talking to them and I've been trying to convince them that, okay, over the past, this has been a situation. I need to have your skin also in the game if I have to manufacture some material and keep it and hold it for you. So you can give us whatever, maybe 30%, 40% advance. I'm thinking in the engineering industry, this is a norm. If you have to place an order for engineering goods, that you place the order with an advance. But in our kind of business, it rarely happens. But I'm trying to convince them. And we'll reach some midway with them so that they also realize that, yes, there is a pressure which is there for us as well, and they need to support us in this. So it's how you put across your point with the customer that would help you in creating this business opportunity.
Another minute, Ketan bhai.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly, I would just like to also add is that do invest in a good business development manager and take part in exhibitions. Give it maybe 2 to 3 years of exhibiting in the industry exhibition that is there. And don't consider this as a cost, consider this as an investment. And even one business opportunity that gets encashed by this exhibition or by the business development manager, all your past 3-4 years of costs and expenses would be paid back. I hope I've been able to share some insight as to how we are trying to build our business in terms of our sales, our marketing and business development. And I will now hand it back to Srini. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ketan bhai. Quite enlightening, because our research report said over 77% of SMEs are facing business loss. Now, over 75% are looking at losing the cash or uncertainty of collection. So your ideas have been extremely useful. I'm sure our participants will be able to take it. I will now invite Amit bhai. Amit bhai is the head of SMeth Specialty Chemicals. They are a group of companies who are into distribution of specialty chemicals, indenting across pharma, agro, plastics, additives, specialty chemicals. Amit bhai, our research report said that over 80% of SMEs have difficulty in procurement, and over 60% have very low stocks. Even tomorrow, if we have to start manufacturing, we will have a problem because we don't have really stocks. So how do we get access to stock if China is out of the question? I mean, we are going to say, we are not going to, like Ketan bhai talked about, Prime Minister insisting on buying local. He also used the word vocal about local. So that, and of course, how do we build capability to manage optimum stocks? So if you could please enlighten our participants on that. Over to you, Amit bhai.
Okay. Thank you, first of all, everyone. Good afternoon to you all. In a new culture of work from home, in fact, this is my sleeping time. So excuse my goof up. And this is also my first experience on webinar. But anyhow, appreciate you inviting me on this panel with other stalwarts. GD and Srini, you all have done a good job in identifying issues with SME, which are probably known, but it reconfirms what it is. What I'm going to share is my observation rather than a specific solution, and the way we can look at things differently. Because each organization has its own problem, own situation, own circumstances. So in a SME, it is a bit difficult to provide a prescription-based solution. Rather, I would like to address it in way of thinking it differently in the difficult times. I think Ketan has summarized very well what is required in customer relationship, how to acquire, how to sustain, and how to grow. Your report shows a lot of challenges, but these are reality, and we have to get equipped to address it. Yesterday's message of PM surely comes as a music to ear for all of us in bringing much needed optimism. COVID has made us fearful in every aspect of life. We need to be less fearful, more conscious, and maybe careful to address this fear. Our business situation emerging is also needs the same. We are very fearful as to what is going to happen, what has happened, what are unknown still in store, what is going to address. So in fact, COVID is being catalyst to change our thinking process. And what I would like to address is that how do we address this thinking process, think differently to be more sustainable and eventually grow. As a SME, we don't have a luxury of doing trial and error. Key to SME is how best we be sustainable as things unfold and grow. What I want to share, as I said earlier, is my observation on coming challenges and what probably solution can be. Each organization has its own set of challenges, difficulty, and it's difficult to prescribe a single solution. But if we address and see the perspective differently, we might be. There will be a lot of extra capacity. There will be some shortages. We do not know what it will be. Focus will need to be for SME to be more and to concentrate and on their own inherent advantage and their core competency. One cannot disagree what has been said on customer relationship. We as SME will now to look at more of an alliance model rather than doing everything by ourselves. And this is going to be more relevant for us to help us to sustain at a comparatively a lower cost and by hedging our risk. And what I mean is in this, it could be in any area. It could be in inventory, it could be sales, it could be manufacturing, as we will need to bring essential efficiency in most of the area. And this is not easy. But as an example, is there a way we can share inventory with of common raw material with other competitor or other users? Yes, it will need, we will need to find a ways to identify them, because sometimes they could be having an inventory which is lying them and we are not aware. So these are the technological approaches which we can apply in identifying some of this solution as well, or align with a distribution house and who collectively can then store the similar raw material which are used, and where a SME can or a collective SME can give a certain assurance of offtake in a certain time frame. These are unusual times, so we will have to look at unusual way of addressing with little out of box thinking. So distributor can carry a reasonable inventory based on a certain forecast. As far as user is concerned, he can address his cash flow and uncertainty of production in demand and supply chain. Of course, it will be essential to use the right partner and understand their objective in this, so that when you align, both the objectives are aligned and they benefit, and it is not focused on a short-term growth or a short-term pain. Whereas distributor can look at is more a sustenance for the business, a continuity of business, and they will have to provide service and some kind of a differentiation. It's all about bringing in a differentiation needed in this competitive world. User will have to learn to pay for service and differentiation. Similar alliance can also happen in sales. I'm sure all of us have our own dedicated sales staff. The sales in a specific area, specific expertise is becoming more and more. Can we look at sharing of sales for a specific market segment apart from doing it direct? These are the areas which will enhance our own ability to understand market better, market map it better at a comparatively at a cheaper cost. So, and these are some of the things which, if we try it, maybe it can help in even understanding the market mapping better and everything. Here, even the user will need to learn to share critical raw material information, production data, maybe application, other things as well. So it will have to be synergized with the raw material or a complementary asset or a manufacturing. Now, so these are some of the views as far as how do we address inventory, manage it efficiently, how do we explore the possibility beyond of what we are stuck with. We are stuck with a certain inventory. How do we find an alternative to take it out? Now, these are the ones which can we help with the new approach and the new technology. Now, coming to a point on an alternative to China, I don't think we can wish away China as easily. Do we want to replace them, or do we want to make our own mark? One thing which I have observed in my understanding of China over a period of time and how they have grown, I have seen them in a very primitive way of manufacturing to a very sophisticated approach. But so by them getting into more and more value add, I think we are getting into area where it is more becoming a level playing field. They have already created enough capacity, so let's be naive, not be naive in understanding that we will be able to have a cheaper option at a comparatively easy way.
Amit bhai, 1 minute.
Oh, okay. This is a collective goal. So it is possible to address this. I see a lot of mismatch of market mapping and understanding. If users of key critical raw material share a data, then maybe we can induce someone to make it. Although there has to be a synergy of raw material, complementary asset or expertise. It is essential we align with the party who has at least some of this. A user will have to have a mindset to pay the premium. And this is more about mindset change rather than anything else. And this will allow us to share and grow. It will work, and maybe we will be able to leapfrog as well. In my interaction with a lot of big companies also, this is being realized and they're supportive this idea. In last 2 weeks only, I've received a various requests, even from the big company, where they feel that they are going to have an issue with their capacity because of change in demand pattern and other things. So they are looking for option as to what can be done with their assets. So I think there is a way that SMEs can play a role here as well, if they focus in identifying what expertise they have and offering to the bigger companies being their supportive manufacturer. Some of these issues are coming to knowledge of upper management as well, because earlier the purchasing people were more focused only cost and cost. But now with this, probably there is an appetite for them to pay a premium as well. So hopefully COVID will help and address and catalyze these changes as well. And how this is how SME can probably take advantage on this. I will only spend 1 more minute on data, which yes, everyone talks about data as a new gold. It's extremely important for SME to begin themselves to digitize. Benefit of data can be tremendous. You do not know when it will start showing its benefit, but only if you have a data, you would be able to use it effectively to identify issue, identify problem, identify solution, identify innovation. So I think the first step is to create your own data in every aspect of it, whether it is your sales, manufacturing, inventory, whichever way you look at it. The use of this will be extremely, extremely essential going in future. This is my short observation and take on some of the issues which you have highlighted.
Thank you very much, Amit bhai. Thanks a lot for that perspective. I think the key takeaway is going to be collaboration. Our next panelist is Mr. Rajesh Nambiar, and he is from Orbital Mechatronic Systems. They are known for safety light curtains for manufacturing, largely in the automobile, but also for pharma and FMCG and other various applications, Internet of Things, automation of production systems. They have a wide range of technology and marketing partnership with leaders in the world. Rajesh, the question to you is, with production systems challenged due to stock, low stock, manpower, and high cost of operation, how can we work more productive, be more productive in the post-COVID world?
Thank you, Srinivasan, and good afternoon to all of you. And thank you. I think I have a small presentation. Probably I will share that with all of you. You know, Orbital Systems were established in 1987. So in that sense, we are about 30 years in this line. We mostly design, manufacture safety equipments, industrial automation, and sensors. We have a facility in Mumbai and in Bangalore. I am most of the time based in Bangalore. And we also do contract manufacturing for companies like Schneider, Intel, ABB. You know, these are a few of our, you know, large customers. I will try and share a small presentation on what I think we should do at this time and what are the areas that we should be focusing. And I will try to share a small presentation. Oh, I think this does not allow me to share screen.
It should.
Can you mail it?
Yeah, I think it says hosted. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So one of the biggest challenges that probably we will face is safety of our team and family. So I'm not really touching upon that. And that is something that we have to take care, you know, properly. Make sure that temperatures of, you know, all the team members are checked before they coming in, and they wear proper gloves, sanitize, and material handling also is something, you know, that we need to take care, because here in Mysore, we have had a case where they suspect, you know, around 25 employees got COVID-19 because some material which came from China. So they are still investigating on this. So these are some of the aspects that, you know, we should be taking care. And regarding operational challenges, I think the first thing would be, we are, you know, still slowly getting back to work here in Bangalore. We are allowed to operate partially, and they have given a permission to operate with about 33% of our total strength. So, you know, we are now, order booking is, you know, one concern for us, and we are going back to our customer, talking to them. And we have also seen, you know, volumes going up, and certain customers canceling certain orders. They want to, you know, wait for a couple of more months before they place the order. Other challenge that we have noticed is raw material availability and cost. You know, if you look at the electronics manufacturing per se, most of the raw material for us come from China or Taiwan. And I've seen in the of late in the past, you know, raw material prices going up, and also the dollar increase is also adding to, you know, adding to this problem. Then third is availability of manpower. You know, being most of the migrant workers have gone back to their, you know, hometown, and we are having issue getting them back to work. And we have also seen when we go to contract, you know, laborers or contract companies, we have also seen the cost of labor costs going up when we try to take recruit people through them. Fourth is, we'll start seeing a cost reduction pressure from our customers. And so once we start our operation, probably this is something that we are anticipating. Transportation and logistics cost also has, slightly gone up. And maybe because of availability of drivers and, availability of commercial vehicles not there. So I've seen this gone up to about 10-15%. And slowly for SMEs, from the government side, this business regulations are also being very stringent. And, earlier companies up to 10 crore turnover, we never needed to have a company secretary. Now you need a company secretary. GST is also, there are many different forms to be filed. So overall, in that sense, it is looking a bit, tough. Global competition is a good issue, and it also is teaching us many things to become more competitive, to work more efficiently. And also it has, helped us tremendously in improving the quality of our product. The last thing is about the labor law and regulations and reforms. This is looking like a good problem. Labor laws all this while has, mostly for benefit of laborers, but which is not a bad thing. But, I always thought they should also look something from the company perspective. So I think I have seen the last, 1 or 2 days, I think many states is now coming forward and trying to understand the problem of the SME company sectors and trying to help in that sense. So, if you look at most of the SME sector, it is, mostly very labor intensive. So we depend on, mainly people from within the state, or we sometimes, have migrant laborers coming here and working. So, with this migrant laborers going out of the state, and we are finding now, finding it difficult to manage with existing people to work and, meet our customer demand. So what I thought we should be doing is we should create a clear skill matrix and identify who can do what. And, some of our, effort and should go in training our resources into multi-skill. So we cannot anymore have a person doing a particular job. There should be multi-skilled. And because of this less number of people that we have, I'm sure going forward, we will need to have extended working hours. So what, we are trying to do now, instead of paying them an OT, overtime charges, we are trying to link that to production and incentivize them so that they get benefited probably rather better than an OT, right? And at the same time, the company also get, better productivity. And while doing this skill matrix, and trying to teach, train people in multi-skill, I think it is very important for us to train all the resources in quality. And everybody has to go through that, and they should understand the importance of quality. And we should also, try and minimize the number of, I've seen many companies trying to make very complex reports. And at the end of the day, many of them don't even really see those reports. So I think we should now, until we have our team, entire team getting back to work, we should make sure that we simplify all the reports and make only very useful reports so that, the same resource the time can be used for, other areas. Okay, and with this new social distancing, earlier in our, in our industry, typically each workstation is about 3 feet. Now we need to create that extra 1 meter from, one workstation to other. So this is going to take up a lot more of your, conveyor line or your process line. So this is going to be a challenge with the limited, area that we have. So we may have to now, relook at our process flow and create a new layout and a new process. Also, since now there is going to be a distance between, distance between operator to operator is, probably about 6-7 feet now. How do we minimize the movement of material? So we should also probably look at, investing on small conveyor. It need not be a motorized conveyor. We can have mechanical roller conveyors, so which will reduce the time for movement, and easy movement of material also is a possibility. See, in Orbital, we have always had a production engineering team. So we call it as a PED. You can call it as a production or the productivity engineering. And I find for all SMEs to have this a small set of 1 or 2, at least minimum or 2 people team, and create a PED, department or a team. The going forward, I'm sure this labor cost is slowly going up, and compared to other countries, of course, we are at much lower. I think China is about $600 on labor, and we are, I think, is in a much lower thing. But the labor cost is anyway going to go up. So the key is to start automating certain processes. And automizing, yes, today, if you look at it, it costs money, but there are many small things that we can start. And going forward, we should try to automate many processes.
Just 2 minutes.
So, yeah, okay. So doing, while doing automating, so it is very important for you to identify, capture at each stage what is a cycle time, what is a rejection, and identify which area. And another thing is which some certain areas wherever it is person dependent, you try to automate that. And we should also try and invest our time, effort, and money on making jigs fixtures. And I've seen a lot of benefit by investing some money in jigs and fixtures. Also, pre-production or proper engineering before production is also one key area that we have to, our team has to work before it is transferred for production. And they have to identify what is critical to manufacturability, and then, identify that, make work instruction, give it to operators, and so that there is no time loss in that sense. Yeah, this is one of the most important thing. We with the available manpower, we do not have now time for rework. So we have to get our product right at the first time. So there has to be a lot of focus on that. So we will not have time to rework and time to repair what we have already produced. Make sure that our shop floor is very strictly following 5S, and everybody, right from top management to everybody in the organization, should be taught on all this 5S activity, and make sure that we follow this follow this strictly. And teach every operator on a good work culture, work habit, and thereby reducing the wastage. And as a good starting point, we should try and globally, everybody is trying to achieve 100 ppm level, 100 parts per million. That is a standard, but it may be very hard for us to reach that level right away. So have a benchmark of about 500 ppm, and then try to, in about 6 months or so, try and reach as close as 100 ppm. Since now we have, shortage of resources, we still cannot avoid any process deviation and no bypassing. This will amount to a lot of rework in the, on a lot of rework. So this need to be something that we have to completely avoid. We also now, everybody globally, everybody is now talking about India and looking at India as a global manufacturing hub. We need to start looking at our products to meet international standards. We have to get our products export ready, and we should be, getting our product certified, certified, and make sure that we are export ready. I've also seen, many companies. Yeah, I will take 1 minute. Yeah. So I've seen, most of SMEs today are all ISO certified. But one important thing is we have to see the effectiveness of ISO. We should not use ISO as a marketing tool. We have to make sure that we get some tangible benefit by certifying our organization into ISO. So we at Orbital, we have got most of our product CE and UL approved. CE is primarily for Europe market and UL for America. And we are also, one of the first Indian company to get our product classified and under type for safety standards, which is the, the benchmark for the safety standards across the globe. And, today many companies are looking at India, to enter India, and also looking at India as a global manufacturing setup. This will help us, this will help us to get a better reach, and we could also start using their channel to export our products. We have, now 3 very strong partners: IDEC, Japan, Helomove from France, and Hylium from Korea. So we are working both ways. We are trying to, sell a few of our products here, and also they are actually, branding our product as on an OEM route and selling in other parts of the world. So this is something that all SMEs should start looking at. So that's it from me, and thank you all. Thank you, Srinivasan, for giving me an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. In fact, there are already requests for some from chat. I found it very useful. Our panelist today is Mr. Vivek Savla. Vivek bhai, aap hain? It's not to be seen on my screen. I don't know if you've seen on other screen.
Very much here.
Very much here.
I suddenly missed your screen. Okay. Maybe it was my problem. Mr. Vivek Savla is a chartered accountant, and he heads Savla Cold Storage. Savla Cold Storage is the largest single location cold storage in India. Vivek, by the question that we had asked in the survey, over 80% of SMEs are facing cash flow issues. Yeah. So with slow business acceleration and also post-lockdown, how can we leverage capital to weather this period? So if you could please throw some light on that.
Yeah. This is, I've taken the effort to put up a PowerPoint, and which I will share with the participants here. And, sorry, yeah. Can everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so since Mr. Mamis, the FM is going to be here in a while, let me do this faster. The impact of COVID-19 on SMEs, and particularly when you're looking at from the how do you manage your cash flows and other things, is what I would like to focus myself on. The background is there. I'm just rush through this. This is too big an opportunity to waste. It's an adversity, and in best of the adversity, the tough people go running. So, and this is an adversity which has come upon us, and the best thing is to forget it and move ahead. But in the meantime, definitely it's imperative to survive the present. So that is there, and there are a few steps which I will take you through about how we should be able to do this. The pandemic, in my opinion, is still in India. It still has to peak, and after that only it will wane. Once we get what is called as the herd immunity, then only this will become a part of it. We have to accept that COVID is here for us, and there could be a second and a third wave which will come up in the near future. After which there would be frequent lockdowns to break the chain as well, so that we don't see many big losses of life going forward. The vaccine, though under preparation, and the cure, it is still about 15 to 18 months away as per the reports that are available. I don't know when it will come, and we can only at best make a guess estimate. So therefore, what do? We have two things to do and look at, and that is either you sit and cry or you spread your wings and fly. So the choice is on us on what to do, and I think the best thing is to spread our wings and fly as much as possible. For that, what we need to look at is we need to break up the time period into short time frames so that we're able to manage it in the short-term manner. We look at the first 3 months, 6 months, and the 9-month period. And then we take calibrated efforts based on each of these periods. The first 3 months would be now ending around August or September 2020. We look at the next 6 months after that, which would be around March 21. And the 9 months thereafter, which would be December 2021. So around this time, we would hope that the vaccine would have already taken effect and trials would have been hopefully successful, in which time we'll be able to overcome the pandemic. So therefore, what do we do in these 2 things? Till September 2020, we only need to survive. We need to think of how to survive. Because if we exist, then we can plan for the future. Once we're through that, up till the next 6 months, what we need to is consolidate. And thereafter, what we need to do is we need to nurture. We need to nurture the business and take it ahead for the next growth or the quantum leap that we can make thereafter. All that we do between now and the next 15 months or so will shape the future after that for us. So how do we go about this? In the survival period, what do we do? From our existing bankers, we look at and we talk about, and RBI has given a facility 3 months. The 3 months is ending this 31st May. Mostly all of us who would have had some or the other loans or cash flow issues would have taken benefit of this EMI deferment system. Apart from that, banks are also allowed to give up to 20% of existing limits as ad hoc overdraft. This is for a temporary period of 90 days, which needs to be then it needs to be paid and then retaken again. But this 90 days and this 20% additional amount can always help us to meet our immediate commitments in terms of shortfall of cash flows. From there, we can also talk to our banks for reduction of the rate of return, the rate of interest. Why we don't need to do this is because already everybody is aware of what the effect of the COVID pandemic is. The government as well as the banks have already reduced savings schemes rate. So the banks already anticipate that there's going to be a low interest regime going forward. Even the RBI has reduced the cash reserves as well as the reverse repo rates, therefore making it the liquidity available with the bank. They have to pass on liquidity along with at lower interest rates. Unless we ask for it, they will not be given. Now, there are also some hidden assets within our organizations, somewhere or the other. We just have to open our eyes and look at them. We have not had time to look at them so far, but now is the time we have enough where we can look at this. The first thing is the scrap or obsolete items. It could be raw material or it could be finished goods. We have to look for alternative uses or alternative challenge to dispose them. Liquidate them and convert them to cash as soon as possible. Next is old debtors. If there are any disputes pending or there is some legal issues there, and if there is a way in which you can speak to the customer, this might be a good time to sit across and get them to pay part of it and settle the dues. They will also be happy. You will have much needed cash to proceed forward. Another thing is we would have always been investing some of our monies in LICs and PPF. If required, we can put into this pool of funds that we have. LIC gives about 90% of the surrender value for all the policies which are 3 years and above. Normally, these rates of interest are between 9 to 11%, and the rate of you have to pay interest every 6 months. So it's not like the bank where you pay every day or every month. And the compounding, if at all happens, it happens at every 6 monthly period. So this, for the survival and the consolidation period, this money can be useful. So is the case with PPF. Last is if with your vendors, if you're there, you have a payment terms available, and you have some certain cash available. Give those money away and pay the vendors and take upfront discount from them whenever you can possible. Now, thereafter, you look at consolidation. The next 6 months period, what do you do? This is the right time to connect with your customers, speak with them, engage with them, ask about their well-being, understand from them what is their future plan, how the COVID has affected their business. Because in that, along with them, you are also aligned. So this will also help you to plan in future for your business. Connect with your vendors, understand from him the supply chain or the breaks therein are there. Nowadays, a lot of transporters are not available, drivers are not available. The trucks are there, but drivers are not there. So there is delay as well as uncertainty about when materials can come. Connecting with vendors will help you to look at alternative ways in which you can bring those materials and start your work. Ideally, at this time, this is not the time to change a bank. I was asked a question whether would this be the right time to look at changing bankers or not. No, for 2-3 reasons. First is there will be a cost involved, which will be the cost of processing fees as well as mortgaging and other costs, which at this time you don't need to incur. 2, your existing banker has your trust with you. He's going to give you support. He will push your business. For a new banker to understand all that, it will take a time frame of 2 to 3 months. Rather, it will be better to use the ad hoc facility from the existing banker and go ahead. Now, what to do? Now the nurturing period, which is after the 9 months. After 9 months, the next 9 months, how do you nurture the business? This is the time when after you're quite stable, you would have survived and you become some stable. There is some restart of business which has already happened. So there is you have some visibility of what your next 12 months or 24 months will be like. This time you may renegotiate with your bankers the terms. You can pay upfront from this, or you can do what is called as a balance transfer, at which time you look at a new bank. When you're doing a balance transfer, also look for a top up of about 15 to 20% of what your need is, because you don't know where you stand and how the future will unfold going forward. The key points to take point at this point of time is what do you negotiate on this? Look at a moratorium period. Generally, if it's a working capital finance, a moratorium period is not given. But in which case there's no repayment also. The working capital is just a revolving credit facility. But if you're looking at term loans, even if you feel that you will start getting payout from the new expansion or from the new capex in 6 months time, ideally you should ask for a 12-month or a 15-month or an 18-month repayment moratorium period. Moratorium period means is the period during which only you have to service the debt by way of interest. Your principal repayment does not start at this point in time. You also look at repayment. Generally, our tendency is that we should take as much less debt or for less tenure as we need. While that maximum is correct, keep that option with you as to when you want to pay. So if bankers are ready now available to give you finance for 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, take that repayment schedule. Though you know you will be able to repay in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, take 1 to 1.5 years additional time to repay. Why? Because you of such uncertainties like that, you will have a very managed, very good cash flow available with you. Because liquidity is what is troubling businesses today, not the business itself.
Vivek bhai, another 2 minutes.
Yeah. Along with the prepayment terms, along with this, you also do a prepayment terms, which would say that you have the option to repay 20% or 25% of the principal at a choice of your time. The banks are ready to give you this also, in which case there will be no prepayment charges to be paid. Also look at the assets that you mortgaged, so you know where you stand. Banks have the however much money you or asset coverage you give them, they always want more. You should be judicious in what assets you give against the loans that you are taking. For the future, start setting aside a percentage of profits very soon as you go forward. Create a second source of income so that you don't depend on only one source. There are a few performance metrics. You look at the return on capital employed, which is your return on profit after tax plus interest divided by the debt and the equity, which is the total. This will give you how much your business is earning for you. According to this, you will know how much interest is worth paying to the bank for. The debt service coverage ratio, it shows you how much liquid cash you have. So that, and over and above that, what is the surplus available to service the principal and EMI repayments. Quick or acid test ratio, this is what is very relevant today in terms of liquid cash. What is there? It's also called a liquidity ratio. It is cash and cash equivalents with securities, and this is called the debtors. Today's debtors repayment times are unfirm, so you may not include this in that. Divided by the current liabilities will show you how much funds you have to meet your existing liabilities today. The debt equity ratio, this is a leverage ratio which shows you what are your total debt to your total equity. Normally, this should be 1 to 1.5, maximum 1:2, not more than that. I mean 2 rupees of debt for every 1 rupee of your own equity. Fixed asset coverage ratio, this is important when you talk with mortgage values with your bank, because this will show you take your fixed assets at market value divided by the total debt that you have. There is also need to talk on manpower management, but I'll rush to this very fast because engage proactively with your labor. They are also finding this as something new. Talk to them that this is going to be a new normal, that they need to re-energize and reinvent themselves as well as of some of your processes. Invest and prepare to work for home. Labor will not be available very soon, so also be prepared for that. That you may have to change your processes so that you can work with minimum staff. For that, you will need to do two things. One is train your staff to be multidimensional, which was covered earlier by Mr. Nambiar. Also, there could be a possible second and third wave. So build 2 different teams who are able to manage. Adopt technology wherever possible. However, there is a caveat I would put there. Do not go for the latest. Go for time-tested technology. And invest in the technology at those places where you need to improve your customer experience and to ensure quality and assurance for the customer. These 2 places, the customer will value the technology that you put in. Contract management, yes, you'll have to look at how your productive linked incentives are there. You need to put increments on hold. You may have to revisit those with your labor and your team. Leave and lean encashment policies may have to be revisited. But at the same time, let's be human also. So because they are the ones who are going to face the brunt right on the streets. So we have to look for a balanced approach to this. Compliances, Mr. Nambiar spoke a lot on this. I'll put at the cost. Social distancing and norms are going to change. So there is going to be a reduction in workers, hence output may reduce, profitability as well as efficiency may be affected, which could lead to increased cost for redesigning workplaces. There'll be new equipments for scanning, PPE, sanitation, everything. A new thing which has come up is the government has mandated group medical insurance. Now, the Maharashtra government has brought out the Jyotiba Phule scheme, but looking at the fine print, it is clear that it is not available for people who are not domicile of Maharashtra and also those who are not covered under the ESIC. So this is an added cost which one will have to take. You have to provide for shelter and meals for the migrant workers. as well as having bus and conveyance means for ferrying staff to and fro from work and residence. Conclusion, cash is king. It always was, it always will. You need to know how to manage it. You need to be razor sharp on your focus on costs. Innovate, re-engineer, reinvent wherever possible. Adopt technology where required. Convert your assets to cash. Be proactive with your lovers, with your staff, with your workers, customers, and everybody. Pandemic will go, but we are here and the business is going to stay. So we need to look at that positively. All I can say is that the pillar of success will be the top management, then the owners. You have your operations team, you have your technical team, and you have your labor and workforce. All of them have to be inward looking towards the customer who's at the center on all of this. If the customer is there, we'll all remain and we'll all survive and we'll all thrive. So all our energy should be focused in making sure that we are able to keep the customer satisfied at all times. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vivek bhai. Thanks a lot.
Sir.
The next speaker for the day is Mr. Rajan Raje. Mr. Rajan Raje owns a company called Nichem Solutions, which is a company which is exclusively based on innovation across agro, water products, plastic additives. They have a patent in the US for one of their products. And Mr. Rajan, the question is, if you have listened to the participants, they've all said that given the challenges, one of the things that might be important is, innovation. Since your organization is exclusively based on innovation, would you like to share some thoughts on how do we create an innovative organization and how do we do it? I'll do one thing. I'll share the screen of your presentation, so maybe that will be useful.
Yeah, thank you, Srini. By the time you share the screen, we all of us, we know that the impact of COVID-19 is completely unexpected and unprecedented. And as a result of that, there is a problem everywhere. There is a problem on the finance, there is a problem on the economy, there is a problem on the labor, there is a problem at emotional levels. There is nothing new. And last 1.5 months, we are all talking about it. But what I believe is, like every problem brings problems, it also brings the opportunities.
I'm unable to share the screen. I don't know what's happening. I tried sharing it. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you, but there is no screen sharing.
So,
Can
you see the screen?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll go back. Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah, so essentially what I would talk today is what is innovation, why innovation is important, not today, but always. Always innovation was important, because to grab every opportunity, we all have to be proactive and innovative is what we believe. As Srini said, Nichem is a company, last 25 years, we are only into innovation. So probably innovation has become our habit, innovation has become our culture. And as I always tell everybody that innovation has negatives and innovation has positives. First negative of being innovative company is the gestation periods are always large. The success rates are always low. But the biggest advantage is if even 1 or 2 or 3 products succeed, that success gives you the benefit of all the efforts what you have made on the products which have failed. So let me begin with my presentation. We all know that, the presentation is typically 9 slides and we'll go one by one. Next slide, Srini. See, he is the person, the huntsman. He is the John Huntsman's always talked about the opportunity. How the opportunity is created out of crisis. And today, after maybe 50 or 60 or 70 years, we are going through the same situation, what he created in his Handpans Chemicals. Next. All of us know that MSME is an important backbone of the economy. These are the figures. Everybody probably knew it, but I'll just read that 63.4% million units, 20% in rural areas, 6.1% share in manufacturing GDP, 24% or 24.6% in service GDP, which is very high, 33% in manufacturing output GDP, employing 120 million people and 45% share in overall exports with a growth rate of about 10%. And this is where the worry really starts. Next. Now, what has created an impact on MSME? Obviously, stress working capital. All the panelists talked about it. Then possible labor shortage. Yes, everybody talked about it because the migrant labor, we really don't know when they'll get the confidence back and come back. Stress supply chain. Amit Bhai talked about it, how to overcome it, but then that is going to be another challenge. Then the delayed payments. I mean, the calls have already started coming from our buyers, though they are very large buyers, that we can't meet our payment terms, we want cash discounts, so on and so forth. And all this has resulted into uncertainty for survival and fear of existence. Next. But then, if we start worrying about the survival, if we start worrying about the future, nobody can be in the business. I know all of us have come into the business as MSMEs with reasonably eyes open. We are risk bearers. We know that the business is a risk, and that's why we have entered into the business with open mind and a challenge. Personally, my background, I was in a multinational company for 15 years. And after having that cushion of wonderful pay package and the success and the appreciation, I still decided to come into my own business because probably I like the challenge. I like the fun of working on the innovative products. So all of us know it, and at this juncture, we should not lose that confidence on our ability, and we should go ahead. Now, there are various ways my panelists talked about how to combat the problem, how to overcome the problem. I'm going to talk about the innovation, which is my culture, which is my nature now. I mean, it has almost become my nature that in everything I look for the innovation. And how innovation helps is, one, to drive away the fear of uncertainty and the existence, because you have innovated something and that the product is different and better with lesser competition. That product definitely creates a rapid and impactful change. It adds the value to your buyer. It gives you an advantage of reaching or achieving your potential. It helps you to navigate through the crisis like what it is today. I will explain you what we as a company benefit, how we benefited and what we did to overcome the crisis. And finally, I sincerely believe that in spite of everything, we all have to be ready for change. We all have to be ready for the survival and the growth and to innovate. Next. So what are the opportunities for innovations? And wherever we can innovate? Actually, we can innovate everywhere. I mean, typically, I believe that everybody for last 1.5 months are only talking about one thing, that we all need to change. And the change has to be all over. The change has to be in the business strategy. The change has to be in the products and services. The change has to be the way we have looked at the intellectual property. The change has to be how we have looked at the marketing and the avenues in the marketing. Change in the organizational culture and the structure. Then digitalization, because I mean, with the change, the way we are going to move around, work around, and we are averse to touching each other, averse to touching the surfaces. So how we are going to use the digitalization process in the operations. And obviously, the biggest strength of ours, human resource, how we are going to really change them, train them to make them more effective and productive. Next. Now, if you look at the case study, I would start with the case study of NICAM itself, because that's where, as I told you, the innovation is. In spite of being in an MSME company, we have a complete in a culture of innovation. We always offer niche products, and the niche products are diverse. I mean, we offer niche products in drinking water purification. We offer niche products in agriculture. We offer niche products in polymers, paints, coatings, cosmetics, and disinfectants. And as a result of that, in spite of being MSME, we are respected by all our clients who range from Eureka Forbes, Hamilton, Dow Chemicals, so on and so forth. And because of our innovation, not that we knew, not that we had planned for this catastrophe, but yes, we were ready for the catastrophe. Because what we did is, whatever technologies we had, like we had a product for drinking water purification. And during this crisis, we realized that the same technology can be adopted for hand sanitization, can be adopted for air sanitization, can be adopted for surface sanitization. And now we are realizing that the same technology can be extended to develop a coating for PPE kits, for masks, for various plastics, cars, and so on and so forth. So what we did is we just tweaked the technology to create an antimicrobial the coating and the additives for the applications what you see on the screen. Next. And as I was telling you, I mean, apart from the PPE kits and sanitizer and surface sanitizers, we are now trying to innovate into the medical garments, sportswear, innerwear, clothing, electronic goods, toilet seats, furniture, soaps, cosmetics, paints, and coatings. Everywhere, because we realize that today, the biggest fear our customer or every human being has is, how am I going to be protected from the virus? Because when a person who is infected but having no symptoms at all, asymptomatic person for 14 days, and he can create an infection everywhere, how do I protect myself? So this is where our innovative culture or culture for innovation came into picture, and we created hand sanitizers. The typical hand sanitizers, everybody knows that they are all alcohol-based sanitizers. The alcohol will dissolve the virus, and everybody knows. But then the moment the alcohol evaporates, there is no residual protection. So you clean your hands, you come in, and my table or a chair is already infected. I don't know. I touch it, again my hands are infected. So we created a sanitizer which will have a residual protection. So if you use this hand sanitizer or a surface sanitizer or the coating for all the fabrics and garments and PPE kits, it will be protected for 24 hours minimum. So you can be safe. You can be very sure that, fine, I have used the sanitizer or the product. Now, even if I touch the contaminated surface, I'm not going to be recontaminated at least for 24 hours. That's the innovation which will give the comfort level to the users, and that's what is required not only for us, but that's what is required as a culture. See, unfortunately, I have been associated with most of the government agencies because of my association with various chambers. And once I was talking to Dr. Rajiv Kumar, who is the NITI Aayog chairman, and he said that today the government, including Mr. Narendra Modi, we have identified that there is a need to change the culture of India. I mean, we are good followers, but we are never innovators because we have never created that culture in our education that there has to be inquisitiveness. There is no problem if the student fails. There is no problem if the kid fails. But then we should encourage him to invent something, to do something new. And he said that is what we are trying and talking about it. So they are creating the incubation centers. And I'm sure over a period of time, may not be 5 years, but 10 years and 15 years, we will have a change. So these are our products which we are offering. Next.
Rajan sir, 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Now, if I have to really give you a few examples which have inspired me always, as I have told you that there has to be a change in the culture, change in the mindset. So one example is ABCL, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan. We all know he had a severe failure in 1990 and around 1990, and nobody expected him to come out of that problem. But then he changed his mindset. He changed his way of working. He embraced the small screen. He started advertising for the products. And look at the situation. And today he has become again one of the big stars of the film industry. Next. The next example I would give is the sugar factories. I mean, the COVID came, everybody had come to the end of their crushing season, sitting on a huge pile of stock of sugar, sitting on a huge pile of stock of Alfor. So what to do? I mean, where to get the liquidity? So they all went to the government, took the permission from the government to sell the alcohol stock for hand sanitizer application, and that's where they succeeded. Next. Then the case study of our own town, Thana. I have seen a small corner, Prashant Corner, a sweet shop. 20 years back, he was a small tapri, and today he has innovated in the recipes, he has innovated in the packaging, he has innovated in the offering and marketing, and today he has 8 or 10 shops of his own. Next. Now the change in the strategy of marketing, again, I mean, farm to the user or the house. We were always talking about that marketing strategy, but this COVID gave an opportunity to companies like Sahyadri Farms, D-Marts, Big Bazaar, Amul, our jewelers to become small or some kind of Amazons or Zomatos of the marketing chain. Next. Then we all know that, I mean, since we are afraid of touching, afraid of being comfortable in the groups, so digital currency, digital operation, digital marketing, digital learning, digital database, all these opportunities have been given to us by COVID, and we need to embrace it. Next. So what is the way ahead for MSMEs? I honestly feel that, yes, as like everybody said, we have to manage finance because cash is the king. We have to manage the resources because they are our another cash. They are our investments. Manage the space, though I don't believe as a manufacturing unit, working from home is possible for MSMEs, but service sector, yes. Then modernize the technology. That is where the MSME has to be very proactive about. They have to modernize. And for that modernization, they have to innovate, they have to be disciplined, they have to be open for mergers and collaborations. Because typically I know that most of the MSMEs are family businesses. And that is why they are not very open for the mergers and collaboration. But the time has come when we have to do this. If we have to be global, then only whatever our Prime Minister is talking about, that yes, we can give some, provide some alternatives to China. I don't think we can be China, but at least there has to be a beginning. So be ready for the change, be ready for the innovation. I think that's what I will talk about. So, and I will really end with a positive note that, see, we as a company, we have not been impacted at all by the current scenario. We have only benefited. Our working hours have come down, but our turnover has not come down. And that is what everybody should keep in mind, that if you innovate, if you are ready for a change, ready to do something new, we will all go ahead and we will all succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rajay. GD, there are a few questions that have come from the panel, from the participants. So, can the panelists take at least one question from each of the participants? Do you have the time for that?
Yeah, some questions have been answered directly by the panelists. But there are some questions, but as you said, maybe we could take one question for each panelist. This question is from Mr. Ranjan Saxena, and this is for Mr. Ketan Kapasi. He asked, what is the way out for their specific SME, which is focused primarily on exports in this COVID situation?
So, I don't know what you mean exactly, Mr. Saxena, by the way out, but I believe if you're into manufacturing and you have a good export base, it's a good time to capitalize on that, because you would get more opportunities and you should talk to your customers and try and see what more you can do for them. I'm sorry, I mean, right now I still don't understand the question exactly. I just hope that I have been able to answer it to some extent.
Okay. The next question, Amit bhai, is to you. Yeah. The question is, Mr. Sudhanshu Bora from PwC has asked this question. Considering the green, orange, and red zones scattered across geographies, how to address the supply chain issues? For example, cotton spinning mill would require a packaging company to provide packages, who would be dependent on a plastic manufacturer, etc. So he's talking about the entire supply chain. If any one of them is in red, entire supply chain gets affected. So what are your thoughts on how to address this?
A bit difficult. Don't have any ready answer to address that if it is in red zone, if they're unable to do it. Only looking at an alternative supply sources where it could be.
Okay. Giri,
the next question is from Mr. Bhambri for Mr. Rajesh Nambiar. The question is, what types of processes can be automated in your experience, and what is the ballpark cost of automation?
Yeah, generally any job that is repetitive in nature, there we can find a solution to automate. To give a thumb, as a cost, it is very difficult unless you really study the process. But look at a small conveyor that you may need to put in your assembly line, which can cost you as less as 25,000, and it can go up to a few lakhs. So you have to really understand. So any process which is repetitive in nature can be automated.
Okay, Vivek bhai, this question is from Mr. Mahesh Bhanusali, who is from Dr. V.N. Bedekar Institute of Management Studies. So he's asked a forward-looking question: what will be the impact of the package which Honorable Prime Minister has announced yesterday on MSME? Not that we know details of it, maybe Mrs. Sitaraman is talking about it, but any thoughts on the 20 lakh package that the Prime Minister said?
The details are still awaited, but the Prime Minister already mentioned that the 20 lakh package already includes some of the measures already announced earlier by the RBI as well as by the FM later on. So when I was doing the maths plus some of the newspapers that came out today, some 6 to 7 lakh crore of that has already been embedded in the measures taken on end of March and mid-April. So the next is around 12 to 13 odd crores which are still pending, which the Honorable Prime Minister said will be said in a step-by-step manner. So we can only wait to see what happens really. But I do look, but from the focus that he said, is looking at labor as well as middle class as well as MSMEs. So definitely we have to keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully the MSME, there'll be something good that is coming up.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Vivek bhai.
Last question to...
Yeah, this is to Mr. Rajan Raje. what percentage of turnover should be allocated to innovation and R&D?
A related question to that, Rajan sir, is also what is the time frame for getting patents in India? So maybe just one question. Oh, I think, is it?
No, this is one.
Can't see him.
I think he has dropped out.
I think it's dropped off.
His screen is blank.
Yeah. So
There is a last question from Mr. Ashish Srivastav. He has said to all, what kind of ERP software would you suggest to improve data sharing and analytics for SMEs? And can you share some ERP benefits? Maybe Vivek bhai, you have been hands-on on ERP.
Well, actually, I think it has to be built to suit. That's my take on ERP. It has to be built to suit. And but with him, I think the particular question was to do with data analytics and data capture. Data capture would obviously happen first from the process or the systems or the manufacturing thing that is there on. Whereas data analytics, primarily right now the people use Excel for it to understand what their own data and their own performance metrics that are there. And then from there one can extrapolate that to make it a custom designed ERP. That's what I would do.
So Rajan sir is back, so maybe if you can.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, JD, you were saying something.
Yeah, Rajan sir, the specific question to you was what percentage of turnover would you recommend be assigned for R&D and innovation as an investment?
Yeah, tricky question. Because since I told you we are only a niche company, as the name suggests, NICAP, we spend as much as 15% of our turnover on the innovation. That probably would be too high. But then that's what we are currently spending. So I can suggest that ultimately it is be decided on case-to-case basis, how much risk one has to take, how much emphasis you have to give on the innovation. But typically, I think 5 to 7% should definitely be the allotment on the research and development. I wouldn't say innovation, but R&D budget should be between 5 and 7%.
Okay, thank you so much, Rajan sir. Giri, if you can quickly summarize the discussion.
I think since we are already moving into Nirmala Sitharaman time, I think
we have eaten away her time.
We have eaten away our time. So maybe I would quickly move into a motion of vote of thanks. So on behalf of IRA Consulting, I would like to express our grateful thanks to all the esteemed panelists, Mr. Ketan Kapasi of Sodium Metal, Mr. Amit Mehta of Esamit, Mr. Rajesh Nambiar of Orbital Mechatronics, Mr. Vivek Savla of Savla Cold Storage, and Mr. Rajan Raje of Nychem Solutions for your insights and perspective and the solutions that you have specifically recommended and provided based on your experience. And I'm sure this will help each one of us in the SME community to mitigate the challenges faced by us, as well as leverage the opportunities, which several examples which each panelist has mentioned has shown that the opportunities can be leveraged. I would also like to express our thanks to all the participants, most of whom are SME owners and who are experts in their own right, in their own field, for their keen participation. And thanks a lot for making this webinar a success. Lastly, thanks also to the supports and logistics team, which has made this entire event possible. What we will do, as Srini outlined at the beginning, is we will share the link of the webinar and also the detailed points which have come up during the webinar, which team members have made a note of. We will circulate among all the participants, and we would request that if there are any more specific questions which come up, we will request the panelists to answer to each of the person.
Sure.
And, I'm sure this has been a great event for us, and thanks a lot very much. And we do hope that we can conduct something like this in future as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ERA team, for arranging this and giving an opportunity to share our views with all your colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good day.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.